Begin the final segment of this debate with something none of you saw coming, something quite unexpected. Soon after your inauguration, you will face a crisis. All presidents do. What crisis have you experienced in your life that suggests you've been tested and can face that inevitable challenge? Secretary Clinton, you first.
Well, there are so many, I don't know where to start. I guess the one I would pick is the fact that I was part of a very small group that had to advise the president about whether or not to go after bin Laden. I spent a lot of time in the Situation Room as Secretary of State, and there were many very difficult choices presented to us, but probably that was the most challenging because there was no certainty attached to it. The intelligence was by no means absolute. We had all kinds of questions that we discussed, and at the end, I recommended to the president that we take the chance to do what we could to find out whether that was bin Laden and to finally bring him to justice. It was an excruciating experience. I couldn't talk to anybody about it. In fact, after it happened, the president called my husband. He called all the former presidents, and he said to Bill, well, I assume Hillary's told you about this. And Bill said, no, she hasn't. There was nobody to talk to, and it really did give me an insight into the very difficult problems presidents face.
Governor O'Malley, what crisis proves that you're tested?
John, I don't think that there is a crisis at the state or local level that really you can point to and say, therefore I am prepared for the sort of crises that any man or woman who is the commander-in-chief of our country has to deal with. But I can tell you this. I can tell you that as a mayor and as a governor, I learned certain disciplines which I believe are directly applicable to that very, very powerful and most important of all jobs in the United States, president, whose first and primary duty is to protect the people of our country. You learn that threats always change. You learn to create a security cabinet. You learn to create feedback mechanisms. You learn to constantly evaluate and understand the nature of the threats that you are being faced with. I have been tried under many different emergencies, and I can tell you that in each of those emergencies, whether they were inflicted by drug gangs, whether they were natural emergencies, I knew how to lead and I knew how to govern because I know how to manage people in a crisis and be very clear about the goal of protecting human life.
Senator Sanders, what experience would you draw on in a crisis?
John, I had the honor of being chairman of the U.S. Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs for 2 years, and in that capacity, I met with just an extraordinary group of people from World War II, from Korea, Vietnam, all of the wars. People who came back from Iraq and Afghanistan without legs, without arms. And I was determined to do everything that I could to make VA healthcare the best in the world, to expand benefits to the men and women who put their lives on the line to defend me. We brought together legislation supported by the American Legion, the VFW, the DAV, Vietnam Vets, all of the veterans organization, which was comprehensive, clearly the best piece of veterans legislation brought forth in decades. I could only get 2 Republican votes on that. We ended up with 56 votes. We needed 60. So what I had to do then is go back and start working on a bill that wasn't the bill that I wanted. Sit down with people like John McCain. Sit down with people like Jeff Miller, the Republican chairman of the House, and work on a bill. It wasn't the bill that I wanted, but yet it turned out to be one of the most significant pieces of veterans legislation passed in recent history. So the crisis was, I lost what I wanted, but I had to stand up and come back and get the best that we could.
All right, Senator Sanders, We've ended the evening on crisis, which underscores or reminds us again of what happened last night. Now let's move to closing statements. Governor O'Malley.
John, thank you. And to all of the people of Iowa for the role that you perform in this presidential selection process. If you believe that our country's problems and the threats that we face in this world can only be met with new thinking, new and fresh approaches, then I ask you to join my campaign. Go on to martino'malley.com. No hour is too short, no dollar too small. We will not solve our nation's problems by resorting to the divisive ideologies of our past or by returning to polarizing figures from our past. We are at the threshold of a new era of American progress, but it's going to require that we act as Americans based on our principles. Here at home, making an economy that works for all of us, and also acting according to our principles and constructing a new foreign policy of engagement and collaboration, and doing a much better job of identifying threats before they back us into military corners. There is no challenge too great for the United States to confront, provided we have the ability and the courage to put forward new leadership that can move us to those better and safer and more prosperous days. I need your help. Thank you very, very much.
Secretary Clinton.
Well, thank you very much to CBS and everyone here this evening for giving us another chance to appear before you. I've heard a lot about me in this debate, and I'm going to keep talking and thinking about all of you because ultimately I think the President's job is to do everything possible, everything that she can do to lift up the people of this country, starting with our children and moving forward. I've spent my entire life, since I started as a young lawyer for the Children's Defense Fund, trying to figure out how we can even the odds for so many people in America, this great country of ours, who are behind, who don't have a chance. And that's what I will do as your president. I will work my heart out. I need your help. All of you in Iowa, I need you to caucus for me. Please go to HillaryClinton.com and be part of making this country what we know it can and should be.
John, this country today has more income and wealth inequality than any major country on earth. We have a corrupt campaign finance system dominated by super PACs. We are the only major country on earth that doesn't guarantee health care to all people. We have the highest rate of childhood poverty. And we're the only country in the world, or virtually the only country, that doesn't guarantee paid family and medical leave. That's not the America that I think we should be. But in order to bring about the changes that we need a political revolution. Millions of people are going to have to stand up, turn off the TV, get involved in the political process, and tell the big money interest that we are taking back our country. Please go to BernieSanders.com. Please become part of the political revolution. Thank you.
All right, back with some final thoughts in a moment.